Hello everybody, my name is Mike the Man and I appreciate your watching my channel. Please be aware that all parties are innocent until proven guilty. Please be aware that all of this is my opinion and my opinion only, meaning make up your own mind. The purpose of me making my videos is to teach statement analysis and enable you to independently access information via statements that they are giving us. It doesn't matter if it's the Proudfoots, it doesn't matter if it's Seth, it doesn't matter if it's John Ramsey or Jerry McCain. Everybody is to be treated the same way, meaning we assume that they are innocent when we approach new statements from people. We assume they are telling us the truth. We assume they are telling us what we need to know, and we also allow them to talk us out of it, which is something they always do. And the closer, the deeper you get into statement analysis, the more you will be baffled how easily people give themselves away. Now the problem is, of course, that in a court of law, statement analysis on its own is not going to do anything. But in the FBI and some other very skilled agencies, statement analysis is used properly and leads investigators into the right direction so they can do their job, because the hardest part is for law enforcement to enter a brand new situation and not always know where to begin. Of course, there are certain rules, and they look first at the family members, and that is due to statistics. So the father, the mother, stepfather, the husband, the wife, those are the likeliest unknowns, usually, unless there is already information you're getting about a stalker or somebody close to them showing obsessive behavior. Anything like that can be a strong lead, and you have to follow the leads, and you cannot expect quick results. You cannot say, okay, I think I got it, let me see. No, you have to allow the language to come to you, and that is what I have been doing. And in the last video I talked about the embedded confessions. The last one was from Chris Proudfoot, and I also used Jerry McCain and John Ramsey. And John Ramsey, after that statement that I shared with you yesterday, they talked about the autopsy and something about strangulation and the hit in the head taking place almost at the same time. It was full of absurdities. That was the damage control thing, where at first he told you what happened. He told you, according to police agencies, and then he tells you in his own words what really took place. And I believe him. So here are a couple of statements Kim Morgan on X has sent to me, and I am very happy to have those available to me. And the first one, Chris Proudfoot says, Sebastian walked out of the house. Okay, this one is of course a lie. And this is something that is scripted and ingrained in their brains, just like bring them home. By the way, have you listened to Lauren from Facebook? Have you listened to her recent video? Check it out on X. And Bring Him Home has been a phrase used by Peterson, I think. It was Peterson, Chris Watts, others. This is very common, not to focus so much on the action of actually first finding your child. That is the most important thing. Not bring them home. There is sentimental value attached to that. It is something that also enables them to go back into nostalgia, which is a very dangerous area when you are supposed to only think about the future, which is to find your son, to find your daughter, to find your family. So he repeats, he starts out, Sebastian walked out of the house. Okay, before we go any further, that's what he's basically telling you. You know, right? Okay, we have established that this is the basis. If you don't accept this, there's going to be a big problem. That's really what he's telling you. Okay, first off, before I tell you my story and yet another deceptive narrative, we need to establish that unless you accept this as fact, we're not going to continue. And he had a lot of pre-interviews with a lot of people that interviewed him, where he made sure they're going to be on his page. He always talks about the same page, but what it is his page, and that is the page of the script that Katie had written for him. And as I've said, Chris is the mouth and Katie is the brains behind all of this. You can see Chris watching Katie or looking at the camera, very attentive when she talks about Sebastian supposedly taking out the trash that night. But I will get more into this later, because she didn't actually say that he took the trash out that specific night. And she felt a need to explain why, because that's his chore. She's trying to convince us of something. So just because she said it, unless we first analyze a statement, we cannot take anything as it appears to us at face value. We have to realize, are they really saying what most perceive, or are they not? Are they saying something completely different? And now here comes something very critical, because this is about Sebastian walking off the property and not being able to be found. And remember what Katie said in another interview. Katie actually told us before they were able to search, or before they started searching, Sebastian was already outside of the search radius, which coincides with Melissa Proudfoot's statement. Don't look within the search radius. Don't even look inside of within 10 miles. Go past the 10 miles. That is very critical, because how would she know Sebastian wasn't within the search radius? Because he could be in somebody's house. And it's possible, it would be possible that, the police searched, but you cannot search everywhere. So immediately they wanted you to stop looking inside, meaning they were suggesting this area has been searched, now move on and move out. He is out there. That is the continual narrative that they are presenting. That is their so-called solution. Everywhere, look everywhere, but don't look at us or the Bowersox family. All of this is my opinion and my opinion only, and here's how I have formed it. Stepped off the porch. So he walked out of the house. He is using a previous narrative to hammer it into everybody's brain. So how did he walk out of the property? He left the property. He must have left the property. If you were innocent and you were not there, you would probably say, I think Sebastian just ran out of the house and left the property, but he's introducing the porch. And there's something very sensitive about that. in order for Sebastian to vanish, he had to leave the front porch unless aliens beamed him up when he stood there, or unless he needs to introduce the porch in a false manner as something he stepped off of, because he couldn't have stepped off it. And this may, and I want to emphasize on may, indicate the place where Sebastian passed away, because he had hit his head on the floor, fell out of bed, his body was probably limp from the medication, there was no reflex, and he was probably severely injured. Why didn't she call an ambulance? Well, they were already sick and tired of Sebastian. Chris had been sick and tired, and Katie showed an enormous switch in her attitude towards the really good day they had, and then the pretty good evening, where there was no more the pronoun we that had been used 6 times in the first part, describing how good their day was. Really good, unusually good. That's what it indicates. There was a together hour. Everything indicates they actually had a very good day that was better than usual. However, it all declined towards the evening. And what I have said also, the TRH video, don't pay attention to anything anybody tries to sell you on that one. The only thing that you can say for sure is that there is indication in body language. Katie looks like she's on the edge, and Sebastian seems to pick up on that and seems to be nervous, looking at her again and again for reassurance. And she seems to talk to somebody online, could be Chris. They may be looking forward to having a conversation alone at night. Her mind is already on Chris, because there are 2 Katies. There's a Katie with her son and Chris nowhere near there, and they seem to have a pretty good day. But the moment Chris comes into the picture, Katie is completely cold to Sebastian, and her only worry and concern is Chris Proudfoot. So my guess would be that during that video she was talking to Chris, and maybe Chris said he better be asleep so we can talk, and she saw how much he was eating, and she told us before he gets overstimulated, and Chris said he even gets rambunctious, just like the Orrin and Orson West stepfather said about his children when they were supposedly missing. In this language, when you talk badly about a missing child, you're telling us why, from your view, they got missing. You don't acknowledge your own wrongdoings, but it is victim blaming and saying, well, they were rambunctious, what could I have done? That enables them to present themselves in a better light. They are the heroes who had to deal with these horrible children. That's what they're trying to sell you. And Chris, again and again, his message was, you wouldn't like Sebastian if you met him. So go away, stop paying attention. And that has also been a huge theme in his speeches, that he wants people to stop talking about this online and giving each other ideas. He's scared of that. They already fooled law enforcement. So if it's true that Melissa worked as either a 911 operator or somewhere within that system, they managed to call the non-emergency line. I don't know which number exactly. Was it someone's cell phone? Was it recorded? I have no idea. But the bottom line is, from what it looks like, they were able from the very beginning to say, we have this verbally autistic son, he just ran away. I don't know what time they said. Maybe Chris even said something like, yeah, she saw him run away, because it would have been easy for him to do that. Katie was not with them on the 3-way, and she always stutters and has to remember the 3-way, because the other question is why she called Chris at 6:03, but they didn't call that non-emergency line until 30 minutes later, and I'm thinking that they discussed and strategized how to sell this, how to get it started in a way that all police is going to do is think they will assist in looking for a runaway who for sure ran away. So Chris could have easily blatantly lied, made up something that made it sound like he is 100% sure Katie maybe saw him run away or whatever. It doesn't matter, because he could always say, oh, I'm so sorry, I wasn't there, and my wife was hysterically crying when she told me, and I completely misunderstood, and that would have been okay. So he had this freedom, and they didn't want Katie to talk. And of course the excuse they used all the time is she's too distraught, she's too, you know, oh my God, her son is missing, and she's so horribly hysterical, which she said several times. I was screaming, I was crying, I was hollering, I was this. Chris even had to like, it's enough, baby, it's enough, you're overdoing it. She's not good at this. She's great behind the scenes in the privacy of her own home, strategizing and scripting, but speaking, she is absolutely horrible. And that's where Chris has the upper hand, which is why some people mistakenly assume that he is the boss in the family, and he is not with Katie. He comes off like that because that is his time to shine, and he loves to talk. Another thing people asked, was it normal for them to have 3-hour phone calls? It could have been normal, it could have been. It doesn't mean they were actually on the line, doesn't mean Chris didn't come down there from Memphis and drove back. He would have had the time to do it. We don't know. But we need to keep everything on the table unless it is proven not to be so. And I haven't seen proof. And I don't think law enforcement is telling us the truth about everything, especially not Seth. And maybe they have a good plan behind it. Maybe they want, I don't know. But I have mentioned what I think needs to happen next. And whether or not they get the search warrants, I don't know. Maybe not. A huge reason why some cases don't get solved is also that the public is being misled. Same like the staged crime scene of the Ramses. And in this case, people paying attention to Turtle Island. Nah, people couldn't be that. Yes, they can. So I'm talking to the ones who actually are interested in seeing this case solved. And I don't believe in complaining about what law enforcement does or doesn't do. I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part. So if more people pay attention, they will also do their part. So, stepped off the porch. I think this is where he passed away. They didn't want to have an ambulance testing if there's any medicine in him. They didn't want to make things worse for them. Katie over-medicated him because she wanted to make 100% sure that he would not be hurt by Chris when she calls him for 3 hours. Chris is a talker, so you hear him on the different lives for hours and hours and hours. Yeah, I think it could be that he talked for 3 hours. Yes, absolutely. And the less they say, the more they talk. So he's not he's not a verbal artist. He's not good at expressing himself. He repeats himself. So people like that often don't know how to get to the point. So they try again and again, repeating the same thing. Because in the back of their mind, they know, oh, I didn't get, you know what I mean? There are many people like that. People who say the most, also people who, I see it on X, on Twitter all of the time. The people who are the best researchers, they keep it very short and brief and they get straight to it. And then you see others, they comment so much and it's long drawn out sentences with absolutely no focus. And that's the kind of person he is. So the porch he had to leave the porch in order to vanish. This is unnecessary information, stepped off the porch. not left the gate or left the property, the porch. Something significantly happened there. So when Katie later on says, when she describes that she drove around to look for him, she said, and he's already, and she's doing the same movement towards her neck like Chris Watts did, talking about his family. So I ran, and then she corrects herself. I mean, I drove back to the house. So maybe the porch was where she discovered he was no longer with us, and she ran to get something out of the house, maybe a black, who knows what it was. But this is something that is very significant, and we need to keep this in the back of our mind without drawing hasty conclusions. But this is there for a reason, which is why I am highlighting this on the top of this video. So he talks about and vanished into thin air, and thin air could be fire. And if you listen to that caller on Sweetie Pie Low about Daniel Bowersox's property, allegedly 10 miles away, there was a fire in April. I don't know. Who knows? Of course, that caller, this is not something that I'm introducing to you as fact whatsoever. I am telling you that there was something that could align, but it could be also a prank call. Yes, I give you that. That's why I'm mentioning the possibilities. But if you have information, you can bring it my way, and we can check and see what could have been. Into thin air could be fire. That could indicate what has happened to the body of Sebastian, because he used thin air again and again and again and again. That is what I think. Okay. We know you don't think it because it's untrue, impossible, but from the narrative he's selling, what I think can be appropriate if he wasn't, if it was possible. That's what I think. Okay, but that's not enough for him. He wants to put the nail on the coffin. Chris Proudfoot wants to say, because that is what I know. But he said he wasn't there. They said Sebastian must have disappeared after midnight. Katie was already asleep, and it wasn't until 6 a.m. that she went to his room, because when she woke him up, he wasn't there. There would be no way for him to know that is a lie, and that is overselling it. And knowing stands on its own. When you know, why would I tell you, I know the sun is shining right now. That's what I think. That would make no sense. I know the sun is shining right now. I'm looking outside of my window. Everything that seems strange to you guys, there is a reason it appears strange to you. And when we analyze it, we can get to the patterns and what stands out, helping us to recognize what actually took place. So Chris was on with Seth, and Seth talked about a rumor. And Worsham, I guess, is a store. And he said that somebody saw Chris's mother's car at Worsham's. So first, let me go back to the embedded confession. Now, if you are trying to insinuate that someone was in my house or somebody took him outside of my house, just say that. That, I believe, was said shortly after this, because they had naturally an issue with him saying, I know. How do you know? So the embedded confession part is someone was in my house or someone took him outside of my house. And then he says, just say that. He's trying to be accusatory and put the ball into their court and act like he is offended by something in order to intimidate people to shut up. No, you already said it for us, Chris. We don't need it anymore. We don't need to say it for you. You already said somebody was in your house or somebody took him outside of your house. Who is someone? Who is that person? He knows who he is or she is. It's exactly who he's thinking about. He's thinking about someone. Like the PI said one time, if someone is responsible, the best thing is that they go scot-free. Someone. Who is that? Seth introduces his mother's car and Chris goes off on him. This is only part of it. But when he does go off, it means he's at the end of his wisdom. He is not good with words. He is very good presenting other people's words. That is why he reuses them again and again. Divulge and purvey and all of that. Because he needs somebody else's script and he's extremely proud when he can present it. Because it's better than anything that he would be able to come up with. And only when he ad-libs, that's when he gets into trouble and tells us exactly what happened. In my opinion only. So you know, my parents were not with Katie on Sunday. How does Seth know? If he knew, why would he have to ask? Why? Why would he have to ask? Because you know damn good and well, when my parents were at the house on Sunday night. Sunday night, he introduces night. All of a sudden, he is moving up to Sunday. What happened on Sunday night? That you have to scream at us that your mother and your father, your stepfather, were nowhere near. What happened? He's introduced. What about Monday morning? We're at their house on Sunday night. Yeah, they probably were at the house. But for the entire time, did something happen where they took off? He doesn't just say, that's a lie, my mom and my dad were at home. And we have security camera footage and we can show it to you that nobody left the property. But he complains that law enforcement had the nerve to visit his parents and went to my parents' house, and he gets very, how dare they come to his parents' house over somebody like Sebastian, or how he thinks something like Sebastian maybe, because he didn't really talk about Sebastian like a human being. That's why I'm also saying he would cut a deal immediately. He will not want to go to jail over Sebastian. He feels he doesn't deserve it because he feels like Sebastian was terrible, and we are all in a dream world because we would not like Sebastian if we actually had met him. He's convinced of that, and he wants to convince us of that because he says we know who they are, but we need to know who they truly are. And that is probably from that angle that in his opinion he had to deal with too much when it comes to Sebastian. I am guilty of raising him like my own son. That's also an embedded. This is also, I am guilty. That's an embedded, he's guilty of something, right? I am guilty. Said of raising him like, no, that guilty comes from, again, he was not there that moment, but he is guilty of something. And what exactly that is, what role he played or others around him, let's see that. Why does he feel the need to talk about Sunday night? Well, in that, I don't know what that so-called rumor was, but Seth didn't introduce that. He introduced the night. That's crucial. They weren't near Katie. They weren't near Sebastian. He says first they weren't near Katie first, and they weren't near Sebastian. Did Katie first answer the door and somebody came in and then they got into Sebastian? Keep this in mind. The language doesn't lie, people. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty. This is me analyzing their statements. And again, it's my opinion. Please make up your own minds. A lot of people have done great work analyzing, but still formed the wrong interpretation. So for me, before you guys go out there and become analysts, it's very important to not only understand the rules of analysis, but also form the proper opinions, not too fast, but look at all the pieces of the puzzle, but never forget a part like this. Don't conclude prematurely. Let's see what he's saying next. And if you got a problem, he has a problem. That's his problem. You see, they always include themselves. Well, Seth loves him dearly too. And to say about your missing child, I love him dearly, you don't need the qualifier of dearly and then include, water down the love that Seth feels for Sebastian, which is unconditional and doesn't need a qualifier. I don't think Seth would use the word I love him dearly. That is insulting. That is almost patronizing. He would say, of course I love my son. I love my son. You don't need to. Do you say about your children, I love her or him dearly? No, I doubt it. Maybe you will say it about some of the friends of your children. But your own children, really? They weren't near Katie, they weren't near Sebastian. If you suddenly, he has a problem. There's a separation. There's no more, well, we and the father. They're leaning on, usually, that innocent parent to associate themselves and make themselves look like a part of the team dedicated to find Sebastian. But suddenly it's just you. There is a separation. You got a problem. All you got to do, no, that's not all you got to do. If somebody says, I saw that car on Worshams, and by the way, maybe it wasn't true, I don't know. However, the fact that Chris goes off because of that needs to be examined. It cannot be dismissed now. And that is because of Chris introducing a part of his pattern that indicates something is highly sensitive. They were near Katie there. All you got to do, is pick up the phone. I'm sorry, but if we are referring to somebody being parked there on that crucial night, that would make the person at least a person of interest who would be parked there. And all you have to do is talk to them and let them say, no, it wasn't me. Oh, okay, sorry, ma'am, click. That's not how it works. That would be a significant lead for law enforcement to handle. And law enforcement would probably tell you, do not talk to this person. This is our job now, to look at the cameras, to look at anything that we can do, to anything that we have access to. So, Share this, people. Share it with people. Share it, this video. Because I've seen a lot of confusion out there, and I see all that focus on Turtle Island. Let's get people back on track. Share this so others can snap out of it and say, okay. Because otherwise this will be like John Benet Ramsey dragging on for decades. Because the general public is all over the place and nobody demands answers. All you got to do is pick up the phone. So he's nitpicking, pun intended. Not just call her, pick up the phone. This also aligns with the way he is, that he likes to instruct people and tell people what to do. And talks to him like he's a child. He's trying to talk down and gaslight Seth right now. Because before, of course, he makes him out to be somebody who listens to any type of rumor. And I've said before, Seth may be gullible. But in this case, it's a different thing. Because if somebody made a claim, we need to get to this claim. And it needs to be debunked or verified if possible. And that has nothing to do with what the person of interest would say. They would say, I wasn't there. That's not enough, but this is exactly what Chris has been trying to do. A, sidetrack. B, whenever they're getting too close, he wants to keep the conversation private. When he says this, that means there is a red flag right there. We are getting too close. And he told us before, just ask, just ask, just ask. Ask me anything. While he said, well, there's things I cannot divulge, and there are only 3 parents. Again, he always puts himself into the group with Seth. There is no unity there. Seth didn't abuse him. Seth didn't want him out of the house. There is no unity there. Only 3 parents and millions of people out there. Well, there are billions of people out there, but how many of them are interested in the case? He's already telling you you're not going to get an answer, but please don't talk outside. Don't publish your thoughts. He is more scared of the public than law enforcement, because from the very beginning it was treated as a runaway case. There was no luminol, there was nothing. They overlooked a lot of things, in my opinion. So he is more scared of the public demanding answers. That's why. Oh, by the way, those of you who say the joke is on him for calling Turtle Island, no, the joke is on you for listening to that, assuming that Chris made a mistake. He did not. He is talking to these people who are happy to have him on, because that's the only thing that gets them views, and he wants that game show to continue in order to sidetrack everybody. And it works. It's a genius move that likely Katie Proudfoot came up with. So please stop. Stop. At least if you don't stop using Sebastian's name, pretending you're interested in finding him. Because what you're going to do is draw other people in who are interested in a case and get them sidetracked immediately without ever being able to see what actually is going on. That's why I said share my video. Let them know. Let them know you don't need to tune into those channels. Look at my comment section. Look at the way people are filling in my blanks. Anything that doesn't have to do with statement analysis. I have a lot of holes in my knowledge because I A, don't have that much time. B, I don't like to get into rumors. I look for the facts. So when a fact comes my way, of course I integrate it in everything that I do. And I don't allow myself to be tainted. I cannot listen to hours of Proudfoot talking about and then trying to figure out where does he say something that is actually significant. So that's why I'm so thankful to those of you who bring to my attention what stands out to you. Please keep doing it. Thank you. So all you got to do is pick up the phone and call her. Be an adult, be a responsible adult and just call. That is again the gaslighting part. He is making Chris, and he's yelling at him, and Chris Chris is yelling at Seth, and Seth said, hey buddy, but that was 10 months ago, and maybe by the time Seth wasn't aware just how much of a role they may have played in the disappearance of his son.